watching like the Warriors go from Steph and what he does for on an on-ball responsibility to not seeing it, it's just like it's so eye opening, like how bad this team is and like the deficiencies that it has. So in the same game, chat, where we lost by 3 points, Steph did end up getting injured. He sprained his ankle. And it was pretty gruesome. I'm not gonna lie. I will show y'all how the injury went down, but I don't want to see it, and I don't think y'all want to see it. But
it looked very bad though.
Yeah, he essentially rolled his ankle from the top foot down. So what I mean by top foot is like if this is the ground and this was his foot, his foot was like this and it rolled that way, like that. So it was really, really bad. Like it was. I don't understand Steph sometimes, and I'm actually kind of like. I respect like his ankle like strength is insane, or like foot strength, because some of the injuries that he sustains from his ankles genuinely make no sense of how he continues to come back and play fine. Because I remember in 16 where he literally rolled his ankle and someone stepped on it, came back in the same game, and in this game he rolled his ankle and his ankle almost touched the ground, and I'm just like, bro, that's gotta hurt, and it did because he didn't come back. But it's just like, damn, like I don't know how you continue to come back from those injuries. But what do you guys like? What do you guys think about his injury and how long you think it's going to take for him to recover, and what the Warriors will be able to do like in the stretch without him?
Yeah, the injury for Steph looked very, very bad, KB. I mean, I saw it and I generally thought that he would be missing like at least 2 weeks from the injury. Thankfully, it came clean. So they're going to be re-evaluating him after these next 2 games. Realistically, even if he's feeling better, I think he should probably sit for at least the next 3 games, because I do think part of it could be the fatigue on his legs in general. So just like make sure that he's good. Don't try to rush him back. Realistically, as much as I want this team to climb the seeds, the other teams under us aren't really competing to make the playoffs anymore. So there's a good gap between the 10 seed and down. And I kind of feel like in this stretch without Steph, the defense is going to have to be what they rely on to try to win games. So for me, I think he probably misses this next Spurs game and the game after that. He probably comes back for the 4th game. But just take your time. The last thing I want them to do is try to rush him back, especially if he's going to be passive and not really trying to move on it. Give him some time.
I agree, bro. Denver, what you think about the injury and how the Warriors are going to be able to hold up? Because we do have a game example of how the Warriors look like without him, and it's pretty horrible. We'll get into that later. But what do you think about his injury and how long he'll be out, and what the Warriors are going to look like and end up being like without
him? There's really no telling. I mean, it has been pretty telling from just what happened last game. And they didn't even have Wemby. And so I don't know. It's very weird because I feel like the only time that this team has actually been able to win games without him was when in 2022, when we had a much better team. And even then, there was a point late in the season where we lost like 5 or 6 games in a row without Steph when he got injured late in the season. And that, of course, led to Steve Kerr's infamous press conference. We don't know how to win.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And then, but that's really the only. But then they did eventually pick it up. But I feel like that's like one of the only times. And also in 2022-23, the next season, when he had the shoulder injury, that again was also one of those very rare times where we were actually able to put together a respectable stretch of games with him out.
We were actually positive without him. We were above 500 last season.
Yeah. I don't see that happening.
I don't know if I see that happening either, bro. I'm not gonna lie. And I agree, bro. The first Steph's injury looks pretty bad.
Especially with some of the lineup. Like I can understand if someone like Clay is getting benched with him in the lineup. Bro, there's no reason when Steph is out, there's no reason to run a lineup with Chris Paul.
We'll talk about that in this first game. Hold on, because I want to continue with your point about like just how we look without Steph in general. And we all know what kind of player Steph is, what kind of caliber player he is, how the Warriors look. We always knew that his like plus minuses. You can see the difference in how like good or bad the Warriors are without him. But this year, if you just didn't watch, like, let's just say you didn't watch this year at all, you would look at the plus minus and you would see the Warriors are actually better without Steph. Technically, they're both pluses, but the Warriors are actually better without Steph, and that's because of the bench lineups, right? And the bench has been insane this year, and the starters haven't been. So it's kind of affected the impact of Steph Curry, right? But to some degree, Steph is having a down year to his own standards, so I can understand that. But when you just don't have him at all, bro, you can clearly see the deficiencies in some of this team, like in the team, and like what they need help in, chat. Like it's so like obvious how bad this team is without him, and it's crazy how much he actually just connects all like the good things that these players bring for him to make it so that like they bring out their best ability night in and night out.
It's crazy how bad the shooting is when he's gone too.
Yeah,
That
and on
should
top
be
of that,
crazy.
chat, like going from one elite shot maker to not having any, and then playing teams when you don't have that is just insane. Again, Steph is an insane player for doing this. For I don't want to say for a long time because there's years in which he had KD, but there's a good portion of his career where even with like all those teams being maximized for him, just from a secondary creation help kind of thing. And I don't think the reason why I don't really include Clay in this mold because I never seen him to be an on-ball creator. He's an elite shot maker for what he did for threes, but in terms of creating for himself, I feel like that's something he's always lacked in. Steph really never had that kind of level, like, let me get you off the ball, but I'm willing to actually score until like 2022 Jordan Poole, where he had like a player of not similar caliber, because that'd be silly for me to say, but like someone who could play in the pick and roll, finish at the basket, had a movement three, did his job similarly in terms of responsibilities, and actually let him like cook. And you kind of seen how that looked to start the year because Jordan Poole was playing some of his better basketball. Actually, no, not even some of his best basketball during those stretches as well, right? So it was like watching like the Warriors go from Steph and what he does for on an on-ball responsibility to not seeing it. It's just like it's so eye like opening, like how bad this team is and like the deficiencies that it has. So like shout out to Steph, honestly, for being able to not only like I don't want to say backpack, but like really and truly backpack the offense in terms of like what his values are, because it's really like honed in on what he's able to do. And that's why I hate when people say stuff like, oh, Steph has this great system around him. And I don't want to sound like a stan when I say this, but I'm like, bro, he really is our system. Like that's what we get off of, right? Yeah. There's obviously guys who are like system, like extreme boosters, like a Pete Clay and his movement three shooting, like was insane to have alongside Steph. But even when we didn't have Steph in those instances, you could tell it was a bit different. The offense just didn't look the same. It didn't feel the same.
Even with KD on the team, there was a very distinct difference in the way that the team operated.
Exactly. And I don't want to say we look better without the nigga, but bro, the offense was more fluid when KD wasn't with us or was out for some of those times because more people were involved. Now, that's understandably so because KD's an isolation scorer. He needs spacing. You give him what he needs, and he could do virtually anything he wants because that's the type of scorer he is. And that's rightfully so because he's that elite of a player. But again, bro, it's just the way like Steph is able to really unlock so many of these guys' talents when he's on the floor with them. It's wild.